Whoa, some powerful sun. I kind of like it. I feel like I need it right now. We are in the 4th moon cycle. Happiness and great awakening. And I must say, I'm really glad for the reminder of these things because they haven't been so close at hand. And that's what this is for. This is for renewal and for reminding us that regeneration, renewal is possible. Because it's not going to feel like it's possible a lot of the time. That would be the human, the yoke of being human. Jesus said, "For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." The human yoke is difficult. The burden is heavy. And that is what awakening is supposed to change. And I am not trying to pretend to be anything other than right in between, in the midst of this change, aware of it and striving toward it, but not always ready or capable or whatever. Awakening ends up being a series of awakenings. And that's why I wanted to build it into the cycles. Because you're going to forget, and then you're going to remember again, and then you're going to forget again. And then awakening is a form of remembrance, like ultimate remembrance. In a way, you kind of get erased from your current life, like what we consider memory as humans. This individual life that we're living, your memory gets kind of wiped of that. And completely replaced by a history of this planet that just overshadows your individual importance to such an extent that the ego doesn't survive. That's how real ego death is supposed to go. It's not supposed to be some big dramatic, like, though it is. It's going to be like that in our individual lives because our egos are so pathetic, to be honest. You end up in this super clowny stage, and I'm about to talk about the Gemini Pisces difference because that's what we're dealing with this quarter moon. It's a Gemini moon square the Pisces sun, and Gemini is the sign of the clown. You go through so many stages where you have to learn to just clown yourself because you're ridiculous. Our egos are stupid. And you start to see other people's egos as they are, or for what they are. And that's how comedians are born. And, yeah. And that's what comedy is. It's a way to cope with the truth that we're not ready to really become aware of. And at this stage in the game, for me personally, I am like in hate with comedy. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to listen or hear it. I don't want to make jokes because we're in a very tender spot right now. And how I've felt for this quarter moon phase is a little haunted by my own clownishness, past and present. And just, I don't know. I haven't been able to reach happiness. We just reach this spot sometimes where we can't feel what we're supposed to be feeling. And that's something that needs to be addressed sometimes. And when you're integrating emotions and energies, you have to have the ability to name them and accept them. And the naming is very important. And that's what Gemini does. Gemini is the first air sign, so the first sign of Mercury that deals with language and communication, technology. Words are technology. So naming is separating out from other things. It is the process of division, of separation. Therefore, it's painful. But you have to be able to do that, to name something that's happening and to sit with it and be okay with it. And that's how you transcend the name and the separation and the division. Let me talk a little more about just the Gemini Pisces divide. So this is a square of mutable signs, and mutable signs are about endings. And then a square is about two energies that are not just at odds, but because they are two of the same categories of energy, trying to solve a problem from two different stages of development. So Gemini is actually the youngest mutable sign. It's the first mutable sign. And Pisces is the elder, the oldest, the most mature, if you want to see it that way. Gemini is separating things. It works through division. Pisces is reuniting everything. It works through dissolution, dissolving the separate entities and becoming one again. So they're both teaching us how to end things, but they're doing it in very different ways. So it's like two energies competing for the same job, or two political parties who both want to solve a problem, but have two very different ways of doing it. That's why squares are tense, because they are two things that are similar enough, but very different in approach. And I wrote here, Gemini is a reminder to Pisces that individuation is imminent. Because right after Pisces, right after that dissolution into the ocean of everything and oneness, you're back at Aries again. You're reborn. You die ultimately in the last sign of the zodiac, Pisces, and you're reborn brand new in Aries. Everything in the spiritual community, everybody hates. I am not coming back to this planet. I will not be reborn again. I will not be a baby. I've worked too hard. I'm too strong. I'm too... I don't know. People think they're way more advanced than they actually are. And that's the ridiculousness of the ego. And I would argue that any of us here alive on planet Earth at present are not very far down the road of eternity. And I get that feeling of like, when you are just in the linear mind, considering your own personal journey here on Earth, without that big cosmic memory, yeah, you think, I can't start over. I don't know. I can't really get myself there right now, because at times when my ego has been strongest and I felt like I was making the most progress, I was making the least. Because what the ego wants is validation and power and recognition of some kind. Like, that is what wanting to be more advanced than you are is. It's wanting recognition. But there's no joy in the recognition. I think that's why we are learning at this time, and we are so tender at this time, because we're realizing so many people have achieved their dreams, and we've achieved so many of our dreams, and it's not making us happy. I remember first observing people, just my favorite authors and creators, artists, observing how sad their lives were. Even mystics, Jesus Christ himself. Like, if the wage of sin is death, like, the wage of being ahead of your time is premature death. Like, your life sucks if you're ahead of your time. And what am I saying? Oh my God. What is real recognition of a life well lived on this planet? Is it something you get only after you die? Is it money and status and but those things don't make people happy. Okay, what actually makes us happy? I don't think we'll get anywhere near maturity until we truly understand what actually makes us happy. And mostly that is in not knowing. But previous centuries of human knowledge have labeled ignorance the supreme evil. And I just don't think that's true. Not knowing something is not an evil. Not wanting to know something is an evil. So maybe willful ignorance, but not just ignorance, not just not knowing. And maybe willfulness is implied by the word ignorance because it has the word ignore in it. So it's the scales on your eyes and having no desire to see them fall off. And I think there's a lot of that right now. There's a lot of, I don't want to know. And that's raw. It's just raw. Some people don't want to know because it's raw. It's painful. I'm getting in too deep here. We can only handle so much at a time, is what I'm trying to say. Ignorance is the human condition, period. And you can only know so much at a time. Only so much is relevant to you at any given time. Gemini and Pisces. I said, Gemini reminds Pisces that individuation is imminent. So, yes, you get to dissolve into the ocean of oneness. You also have to differentiate again. And you have to become comfortable with differentiation. Pisces reminds Gemini of ego death in the face of community divisions. So Gemini really rules the neighborhood. Our first encounters outside of our homes. There's Aries, which is springtime, which is being born. And then Taurus, which is just eating, sleeping, luxuriating, growing up, just cattle. It's like Taurus and Gemini are both very mercantile. Taurus is very much the body and physicality. So it's more, I would say, like bartering style, mercantile. Gemini is where the concept of like monetary exchange and like even money being a technology, where resources leave the tangible realm and become more abstract. Money is an abstraction. And Gemini is, being an air sign, is about abstracted knowledge, information. Actually, information more so than knowledge. Knowledge would be Gemini's opposite, Sagittarius. So, Pisces, the elder, mutable energy, is always there as a reminder, like throughout all of Gemini's divisions, separations, naming, categorizing, judging, really. That's why it turns into the clown. All judgments, all naming, all separations dissolve into one whole in the end. I feel very breathless talking here, which is interesting because it is the Gemini energy making me feel this way. And it's an air sign. And I'm not getting much air. And it's Mercury retrograde right now in Pisces. And I've been thinking a lot about the transition from using actual language to telepathy. And I'm likening the spiritual state to being underwater. And learning to evolve spiritually is a process of changing your consciousness, which is your perception, your perceptual experience. And at first, it can be very painful and very disorienting because it is a different way of perceiving. And we've been taught that the way of perceiving that it grants you is madness. It's schizophrenia. It is delusion. But it's just a different way of perceiving. And it's a slow integration. It's like you are learning to exist and breathe and speak underwater. And that's kind of how I've viewed Mercury in Pisces ever since, I think it was either 2023 or 2024 that I made a playlist for Mercury in Pisces, and in the description I wrote, underwater bubblegum. And it's just about how symbols speak to us. Even the very first song of that playlist, it's written in another language, and I never translated the lyrics. Come to find that they actually have a huge meaning for me. Extremely relevant to what I'm trying to do. I'm just not going to get into that, but symbols speak to us in layers throughout time. So something that meant something to us 2 years ago, a veil may lift in the wind some spring day, and a whole new world can open up. And it's a resonance, or it's like things coming alive all over again. And that is kind of the whole experience of living in divine nature, in your own divine nature. Living from your spark instead of constantly seeking to be fed the spark of life from everything outside of you. Like being your own generator of the light. I mean, that's being as we are all star stuff. I've come to view everyone as stars, and stars are generators of their own heat and light. That's what distinguishes a star from a planet or an asteroid. the sun is a star, and all the other planets and celestial bodies out there just reflect the light of the sun, the central star. We have to become generators of our own light. And that's hard to do. Even as I speak, I have some kind of ear wobble. What's it called when you, like, your ears are clogged? Like there's water in my ears. Like I'm in between learning this way of existing half underwater. You're baptized by water, and then by wind and fire. Pentecost has been coming up. Things are getting biblical. And the Bible is one of those massively coded, I don't even know what to say right now. Its literal interpretations are, I don't know, it's very interesting. When the symbolic interpretations open up, then it almost reinforces the literal interpretation. Because I have seriously wanted to know the answer to the question, like, was Jesus Christ a real man on earth? Like, I've been very curious about Christianity, because it is the only religion which truly appeals to me, despite possibly, like, I think what's been most proven to me in my consciousness is Hinduism. But it's like the divine is a project that is not finished. It's like, just because that whole world of Hinduism is legitimate does not mean that's the end. Do you understand what eternal means? I think that's what people really, what the ego cannot grasp is eternity. And eternity, without the concept of death, without mutability, without Gemini and Pisces, and then Virgo and Sagittarius as well, it is terrible. Without death and resurrection, there's nothing novel, there's nothing beautiful, there's just power-mongering entities, people that are just nothing but ego, who want life to be finished every day. Like, I did everything perfectly, I was awesome, call it a day. There's so much more joy in being flawed and alive. And then we die to perfection, perfect rest, and wake up again. Reborn. I think the control-seeking ego of the human being is terrified of the concept of being reduced to an infant again. Like, you mean this whole structure that I've built up for myself, this refined adult persona, has to go back to goo goo gaga? Fuck no. I mean, if that's where the place you're coming from, then of course you're gonna have to. Because it's blissful. Bliss is what we're trying to learn. Not perfection, not achievement, not recognition. Bliss. And speaking of that, I'm going to go take a bubble bath and call this first official health, justice, peace, happiness moon cycle a success, even if only by reminder and first launch. Successful first launch. Yeah, we did it. And I am happy. And I am excited. Even if it's hard to really feel it, bubbles might remind me.